613 commandments in the Torah, and there are basically 3 that a person has to give their life for rather than transgress. What are those 3? Number 1, murder. If a crazy person comes up to you and puts a gun to your head and says, kill that person or I'll kill you, you have to die rather than do it. Second, sexual immorality, which really encompasses several commandments. If a crazy person comes up to you and says, do this sexually immoral act or I'll kill you, you have to die rather than do it. And the third one is idolatry, avodah zarah. If somebody says, bow down to this idol or I'll kill you, or convert to an idolatrous religion or I'll kill you, you have to die rather than do it. Why those 3? That's a different class. But there's one commandment that we're taught equals all 3 combined. You don't have to give your life rather than transgress it, but the heaviness of transgressing it equals all 3 of those combined. And that commandment is Lashon Hara, gossip, slander, rumor. Every time we speak badly about somebody, it is triple murder. We're taught that 3 people die. 3 people are killed every time we speak badly about somebody. Who are those 3 people? The speaker, the person you're speaking about, and the listener. Now let's go through that triangle and see how this all works. Let's do the easy one first. The speaker. Imagine we're sitting around and the topic of somebody's messy divorce comes up and everybody's and I say to you, guess what I heard? What do you say? What? What do you mean I'm being killed in your eyes? I'm actually the queen of this social moment. All eyes and ears are on me. I'm being killed, definitely in the eyes of the Almighty, but yes, also in the eyes of everybody listening. Why? Because if you're known as the person who always has the dirt and the lowdown on everyone, and they don't call dirt and lowdown for nothing, are you the type of person that people are going to come to and confide in, ask advice of, look up to? At the moment, yes, you are the queen and king of this social moment. All eyes and ears are yes on you. But really, you're committing slow social suicide. So that's the first person, the person speaking. Let's do the next one of our 3. The person you're speaking about. In whose eyes are they being killed? Everybody listening. You know those courtroom dramas where the witness gets on the stand and blurts something out and the prosecuting attorney yells, I object. And the judge says sustained, and he turns to the jury and he says to the jury will disregard what the witness just said. And he turns to the court stenographer and says, this will be stricken from the record. The witness gets off the stand, smiling smugly, and so is the defense attorney, smiling. Yeah, you will disregard what the witness just said. Years ago, I was in Toronto and somebody came up to me and blurted out something terrible about somebody we both knew. It's been almost 30 years since this happened. And every time I see the person they spoke about, every time I think about the person they spoke about, every time I hear about the person they spoke about, what's the first thing that comes to my head? What they said. I can't get it out of my head. Somebody said that gossip is like a fired gun. Just try and put that bullet back in. Just try and take it back. Once you say it, it's there. So we've done the person who's speaking and the person we're speaking about. Let's do the third person in the triangle, the listener. Now, brace yourself. According to the Torah, the person who is killed most of all, the person who's the most guilty in God's eyes, the person who's the most culpable in our triangle is the listener. But that doesn't seem very fair. It should be the speaker. Why is the listener considered to be the most guilty? Because of all three people, the person who has the most power to stop this in its tracks is the listener. The person who's speaking, like, made a decision to speak. The person who you're speaking about is out there bowling somewhere and doesn't even know they're the topic of conversation. The listener, somebody goes into a bank to hold up a bank with a gun. They're not holding up the bank and then going out and calling an Uber to get away. There's somebody in the getaway car. And if they're caught, the person in the getaway car, they go to jail too. They didn't go to the bank. They did not pick up a gun, but they are considered to be as guilty or more guilty because they are an accessory to the crime. The crime wouldn't have happened without them. All right. So if the listener is the most guilty and the most culpable, then what are our options? What can we possibly do if you happen to be in a situation where people are speaking badly about other people? What can you do? So here are some tricks. Ready? Okay, so imagine it's Shabbat morning, it's Kiddush time, and you walk into an animated conversation, and there people are like gossiping. So what can you do? You can keep walking. Yeah, you can just keep walking. What else? Imagine, and this has happened to me, I'm a rabbi's wife. And for over 30 years, we used to work in Jewish communal work. And sometimes on Shabbat morning, I would come into an animated conversation. And just when I walk over, silence. Silence. So I usually joke and say, well, either there was a punchline to a joke I shouldn't have heard, and I don't have to go on. Or they were talking about something they'd be ashamed to talk about in front of me. I wish I deserved it, but they looked at me as a type of person that they would be ashamed to use certain language, to say certain off-color jokes, or to talk about people in a negative way in front of me. You want to be that type of person that they hold in such esteem. If people are using bad language towards me, or they're saying irreverent jokes, or they're gossiping to me, I shouldn't ask myself, what's wrong with them? I should ask myself, what's wrong with me that they think that I'm the type of person who wants to hear this? Sometimes it's not easy because, remember we said, walk away? Well, what if you're on the expressway and you're the passenger and there's a driver, and the driver starts speaking badly about somebody, starts speaking Lashon Hara, and you can't just walk away, and you can't just redo your character and become a different type of person that they wouldn't want to overnight, in a second, that they wouldn't want to say something like that in front of you. So what's another option? Change the subject. Change the subject. I don't know about you, but there are certain people in my life that, what can I say? They have more of a challenge in this area than other people. If you know you're going to be around that person, then you should be prepared. Be prepared. So imagine you're going to a family simcha, and at that family simcha, you're going to see Aunt Sadie. And within 2 minutes of seeing Aunt Sadie, she's going to be dissing Aunt Judy because they've been warring for decades. So be prepared. I usually have a cute story about one of my kids and now one of my grandchildren in my back pocket, just to be able to switch the subject in order to change it up. So now I'm at the family simcha, and I see Aunt Sadie. Aunt Sadie, how are you? Mazel tov. How you doing? Did you see Aunt Judy and what she wore? How inappropriate, da, 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 da. And I'm like, I start talking about, oh, did I tell you about my granddaughter? What a cute thing she did. Start showing family photos, and they walk away soon enough. So be prepared. But sometimes you're switching the subject, and they just keep switching it back. So what do? Did you ever zone out? Did you ever, like, you're listening to a lecture, and you realize you just missed the last few minutes? Like, where'd you go? Hopefully not now. This is a good time to zone out. If somebody's like, and you can't walk away, and you can't, and you keep changing the subject, and they keep changing it back. So in your mind, in your head, start making, your menu for Rosh Hashanah, or do multiply numbers in your head, or try to just be not there. What else can you do? You can judge the person they're speaking about to the good. Yeah. Even it sounds incredibly plausible what they're saying, of what happened to this person, or what that person is like, or what they did. We're involved in so many people's lives over the years. I'm here to tell you, I promise you, there really are three sides to everything. His side, her side, and the truth. There's always another side. And it says that God judges us the way we judge others. So if you judge somebody to the good, then the Almighty looks down and he judges us to the good. If you're going to focus on a person's goodness and not their negative qualities, then that's how the Almighty will judge us. God judges us the way we judge others. All right, not simple, Okay, let's define Lashon Hara. So Lashon Hara, evil speech, is any form of communication that reflects negatively on someone unless there's a positive, constructive purpose. Let's break this down. Any form of communication. That means you can transgress this without saying a word. Two women standing at a social function. Another woman walks by dressed differently. One woman turns to her friend, rolls her eyes. The other one nods. Beep, beep, beep. Lashon Hara alert. Not a word was spoken. Just the roll of an eye. Just the raise of an eyebrow. That's all it takes. Any form of communication. So when I actually wrote a book about this. It's called Gossip. And I have a co-author, Bob Berg. And it's published by the same publishers who do the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And I remember when I first wrote the book, the manuscript, I gave it to our son Zev to read, and he read it, and he says, Ima, worse than speaking Lashon Hara is listening. Worse than listening is reading. And he was right. And I put it in the book. Why is reading worse than listening? If you're on the freeway and somebody's da-da-da-da-da-da, and you can't walk away and all these things, okay, it's like, but reading is pretty active. Reading, you made a decision to buy that and read it, to turn the pages, to scroll down on the screen, to look on that WhatsApp. So when the book first came out, Gossip, I went on a book tour. And I'm on a plane, and there was obviously a business guy beside me. And when I sat down, I glanced over, and he was reading one of those periodicals. And across the whole spread, in big letters, gossip, gossip, gossip. And it had all the Brad and Angelina and all the people there. As soon as I sat down, he folded up and put it away. Now, I'm not that famous. He didn't know I just wrote a book about gossip. Why did he put it away? Why did he put it away? Because he was ashamed. Nobody spends an evening gossiping with their friends and walks away uplifted. Nobody. Everybody has a little bit of bad taste in their mouth. Yeah. So, any form of communication that reflects negatively on someone, unless there's a positive, constructive purpose. What's a positive, constructive purpose? If you're trying to help somebody, You're allowed to say things even if they reflect negatively. But there are 3 very important parameters. 3 very important parameters. Ready? Number 1, you say it to the one and only person who can make a difference to help this person. This does not give you license to do a Gallup poll amongst your friends. Sarah's having trouble in her marriage. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? No. You go to the one and only person who you think can make a difference. Number 2, you say only what's necessary. This does not give you permission to open up a jar full of all the dirty and details and rumors about the situation. And number 3, you have to know the difference between fact and opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. True story. Years ago, I was living in Toronto with my husband, and my husband was learning with a guy in downtown Toronto, not a religious guy, but like a handsome guy, successful guy, learning Torah. And he got to the point finally, he said he finally had enough being a playboy, and he said to my husband, okay, Rabbi, I'm ready to settle down. Find me a nice Jewish girl. So of course my husband came home, told me the good news, and said, you know a lot of good nice women, set him up. Great. So I called up a woman I know, a terrific girl, and I said to her, I set her up with this guy. After the date, she called me up. And she said to me, I asked her, how was the date? She goes, Lori, he was the date from hell. Oh my gosh, what happened? So I went to my husband to say, and I told him, I said, they went out. He goes, how'd it go? I go, I don't think it went very well. She actually said he was the date from hell. And I started explaining, and he said, nonsense, he's a great guy. Set him up again with somebody else. Okay, he's my husband. So I set him up with another girl, great girl. I'm telling you, after the date, she called me up. And I said, how did it go? She goes, Lori, he was the date from hell. I went to my husband. I started telling me. He starts telling me to set him up again. I said, Yaakov, no, forget it. 2 great girls went out with the same guy, and they both used separately the same unusual expression. I said, something's wrong with this guy. I'm not setting him up. 6 months later, the guy gets engaged to a woman we knew. They're happily married to this day. And I'm so thankful every day that this girl did not call me up to ask me, hey, I'm going out with a guy you know. Tell me about him. Because I would have said to her, be very careful. Everybody says he's the date from hell. Because you know what? Somebody's date from hell is somebody else's Prince Charming. You can stop things once they start. And you can destroy things once they've started by giving your opinion. Be very, very careful. So why do we do it? Why is it $1 billion industry, gossip? Why is 1/3 of what we say on Yom Kippur going in Kol Nidre night? Kol Nidre means all vows. We go into Yom Kippur talking about speech. And about 1/3 of what we say we're sorry for has to do with speech. Why do we do it? And why is it such a test? Well, we talk every day, so it is a big test. And why do we do it? It's not coming from a great place. If I put somebody down in some very unhealthy way, I'm feeling up by standing on somebody else's life. And, if our lives were filled and busy with meaningful, important things, we wouldn't have time to talk about other people. So it's not coming from a great place. And here are some of the great excuses that people use, the rationalizations for Lashon Hara. Bob Berg, my co-author, he says, rationalize are rational lies. So be careful not to rationalize your life away. So here's the classics. You ready? Oh, people, their excuses for speaking Lashon Hara. but it's true. If you want to do Lashon Hara in its purest form, make sure it's true. If it's not true, it's still desecrating ethical speech, but it's a different category. But if you really want to do Lashon Hara, make sure it's true. Everybody knows about it, even if it's on the front page of the paper. You're not allowed to speak about it. If she were here, I'd say it to her face. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. You still can't speak about it. Why did I choose this topic for this time? Because we're taught that the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, was destroyed, not because we didn't keep kosher, and not because we didn't keep Shabbat. It was destroyed because of sinat chinam, senseless hatred. And our rabbi, he always taught us that the definition of senseless hatred is when you hate somebody because their mistakes are different than yours. That I would never do, and we believe you, but you would do something else. What's the tikkun? What's the opposite? People make the mistake and they say, oh, the opposite of senseless hatred is senseless love. Ahavat chinam. Love with no purpose. Can you imagine if my husband, it happens to be our wedding anniversary tonight, and can you imagine my husband saying to me, Lori, I love you. And I asked him, why? Why do you love me? And he says, I don't know. I just do. Well, that's not so satisfying. But if he said, Lori, I love you because you care about people, or I love you because you're so passionate about your work, I love you because you're such a loving, a devoted mother. Now we got something. So what's the opposite of senseless hatred? It's not senseless love. The opposite of senseless is not senseless. It's purposeful. So it's not ahavat chinam. It's ahavat b'kavanah. Ahavat b'kavanah. To love with a purpose. To see within each person, even with their mistakes, what it is to love about them. Because everybody's got stuff. Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. So what are we going to focus on? Their mistakes or their goodness? Our kids, they have stuff. They've made mistakes. But if you ask me about them, I identify with their goodness. I'll tell you, oh, my this, and I'll tell you all about my kids that way. Our spouse, the same thing. We need to focus in on their virtues, and then we'll feel love. If we focus on their stuff, we won't. It's really that simple. Love is a choice. When do we choose? Every day, every hour, every minute. It's not easy. It's not easy focusing on the good. It's our choice. It really is our choice. You can't speak badly about other people, whether they're inside their house or outside their house. You can't speak badly, even about yourself. If my kids would say, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm so clumsy, or I'm such an idiot, I go, don't speak Lashon Hara. They're like, I'm not speaking Lashon Hara. I said, yes, you are. You're speaking Lashon Hara about you. God doesn't make junk. Focus on the good. You can't speak badly about other people. You can't speak badly about yourself. You can't speak badly about groups of people or organizations. And there's a special mitzvah to not speak badly about Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. It's our choice, what we focus in on. So let's choose wisely. And please God, that we should come together and we should see our goodness, and the Almighty should do in kind.